Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yenny, and for this week's Mental Health Monday, as it is Social Work Appreciation Month, which I didn't even know was a thing, but apparently it is, and I'm not complaining, I thought today I would make a video on how to become a social worker. Now, this is a general disclaimer about this entire video, but depending on the state that you live in, the country that you live in, there's different processes on how to become a social worker. Even depending on the program that you apply to, there's different routes, there's different classes, and there's different approaches. So I would like to say, make sure to take what I say with a grain of salt, as in this is basically from my experience, what I know, but I don't know every little detail about every program, every state, every country's rules on social work. So I will list a bunch of resources in the description box down below so you can check some things out for yourself. But if anything, if you have any question, the Google search bar is my best friend. I search everything on the Google search bar. Anyway, let's just get straight into the video. So before I get into the nitty-gritty like education, licensure, program, macro, micro, social work part of the video, I really wanted to start off the video by talking about the NASW Code of Ethics. So if you've clicked on this video, you probably have some interest on becoming a social worker, or you're on your path, so you need some validation. Whatever it may be, I always love to emphasize the Code of Ethics because first of all, they shove this thing down your throat when you're in social work school, but honestly, it's for a good reason. I have a copy of the Code of Ethics in my office at work. I truly believe in the NASW Code of Ethics, not only because you have to abide by these ethics to be a social worker and keep your license and not have it revoked, but social work is such a delicate and powerful job where we work with such vulnerable populations. So having this Code of Ethics always on hand to kind of center us, because you know, we're human. It's very easy for us to be biased. It's that countertransference that we talk a lot about in therapy and social work. So having a non-biased Code of Ethics, I think, has really helped me in my career to make sure I'm on the right path to helping people to the best way I can, the most ethical way possible. So I picked out a few values from the Code of Ethics, and I'm going to read them to you. And if this sounds like something you're interested in, I do believe that you are on the right path to becoming a social worker. If you don't care about any of these things, if none of these things really ring a bell for you, I would say maybe do a bit more research before applying to social work programs. My computer's right here. I'm just going to be reading off it real quick. So the first value is service. Social workers' primary goal is to help people in need and to address social problems. Second value is social justice. Social workers challenge social injustice. Depending on micro social work or macro social work, how that will look is different. Value 3 is dignity and worth of the person. Social workers respect the inherent dignity and worth of the person. This one is so important. Value 4 is importance of human relationships. Social workers recognize the central importance of human relationships. Value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is integrity. Social workers behave in a trustworthy manner. Value 6 is competence. Social workers practice within their areas of competence and develop and enhance their professional expertise. This one is so important because trust me, when you're a social worker, no matter what, hi Chai, sorry my cat's here. No matter what field or capacity that you work in, whether you're in a hospital, you're in a school, you're in a substance use program, you're in a government official's office, working on their policy-based social work, you are going to be working with people, right? And you're going to have clients who are going to have not just one need, but have multiples of needs. And let's say you're in a doctor's office and a client asks you about their physical health. Social workers need to always understand that we have to operate always within our own license. We're not medical professionals, we can't give legal advice, and all of this is to not only help the client, but to protect the social worker and our license so it does not get revoked. If you're still here and these values have kind of maybe stirred up some feelings in here that are positive and you feel like these are things that you care about, then it sounds like you are ready to be a social worker. So we can move on to the next part, which is schooling and education. So we're going to start with undergraduate schooling. I have my bachelor's in psychology just because I've always been interested in mental health and psychology. You don't have to have one in psychology. Also, there's undergrad schools that have bachelors in social work, so you can obtain your BSW. But honestly, when I was in social work school at NYU, I've had colleagues who came from all different backgrounds. They came from marketing, like business schools, and then they realized they want to do social work. There were even individuals who came back to school after getting like their JD and law degrees and decided to come back. So from what I've experienced in school and from what I've read, you really don't need to have a bachelor's of social work in order to go into a social work master's program. Looking back on it now, I am glad that I majored in psychology as opposed to a bachelor's in social work. First of all, I didn't know that a BSW existed at the time because I didn't know I was interested in social work. So I would say definitely do some research on if a school that you're interested in applying to maybe has a BSW if you're interested in that, and read up on whatever that entails. So undergrad schooling, basically you can have a BSW if you want, but you don't really have to. And now graduate schooling. Most social work jobs, especially jobs in like a clinical setting, they require that you have a master's degree to be a social worker and to practice social work. And notice how I say most, because really depending on the state, the job position, whatever it may be, things are so different. But from what I've researched, most jobs do require a master's degree, because in order to get your LMSW, which is your license in social work, you do need a master's degree. And when it comes to your master's degree, there's different paths to getting your Master of Social Work. So at least for me at NYU, there were 3 different ways of obtaining your MSW. And I've done some research around the country on some really good social work schools, and it seems similar there too. That's why I'm putting it in here. But the first way you can get your master's in social work is through the advanced standing program. And if you're in the advanced standing program, essentially you can get your master's degree in half the time of a normal 2-year program, because you've obtained your Bachelor of Social Work. So this is where your undergraduate BSW comes in, and why it might be a positive for you to obtain a BSW as opposed to a bachelor's in something else. You can combine your bachelor's and your master's together in order to get your master's degree like a year faster than like the 2-year program. So if you go this route, I would see that a positive is you can save money and time in getting your master's degree, because you basically skip the generalist like first year requirements of an MSW, since you've already done that during your undergrad degree, and you go straight into the upper level coursework. I had 2 colleagues who did have their BSW, but one colleague did the advanced standing and another colleague did the regular 2-year program. Regular 2-year program is what I did. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a 2-year master's program. First year is generalist courses, second year is more specialized courses. But anyway, the one colleague who had her BSW and went through advanced standing, she said it was a great experience. She said, you know, she saved money, she saved time, and she came into her master's degree level knowing more about social work than other people, which makes sense. I knew a lot about psychology, but I knew nothing about social work because my bachelor's was in psychology. She came into the master's program already with her experience and internships and knowledge from her bachelor's degree in social work, so she really liked that. I had a colleague who had a BSW, but whatever her personal reason was, she decided to do her 2-year master's degree afterwards instead of going the advanced standing route. And she hated it. Honestly, she said that a lot of the information, especially the first year, was very repetitive and she felt like she was wasting her time. And of course, depending on the individual, it's a very different experience, but these are just the 2 colleagues that I knew that had BSWs coming into the social work program, so take that as you may. One more thing about the 2-year master's program is during the 2 years, you are going to be having an internship. So your first year, you'll be at one place, second year, you'll be at one place, and you're placed through your social work program. It's called field placement, so you're placed out in the field. The field placement is really what challenged me and what helped me grow as a clinician, I believe. Of course, the coursework, of course, the literature, that all helped very much as well. However, I understand why they emphasize field placement so much, because you really learn so much from hands-on experience as opposed to just reading about it in class. So being able to read about it in class and also get the hands-on experience at the same time really made the 2 years of the social work program very rich in content and information and learning of skills. The third way you could get your social work degree is through the extended program. An extended program is usually for individuals who already have a full-time job. They cannot fully commit to a full course load, so basically it is what it sounds like. Your 2 years, which is what's general, is extended into 3 years and like semesters into winter and summer, so you can focus on whatever your other job is while also getting this degree. I've had some colleagues who were also in the extended program, and they say the positive is that you can make money while being in school, because trust me, I received some scholarships and grants which were fantastic, and I would not have been able to attend school without that. However, there's also loans that you have to take out for school, as with American education, higher level education is not cheap, even if it's social work, and there's a high demand for social work all the time. So being in the extended program, these individuals were able to continue their full-time jobs while also being in school, so they were able to take out less loans because they can pay off school as they're doing it. A negative that was said about the extended program is since it's 3 years, it feels really long. So like the program just kind of dragged on and certain individuals were ready for it to be over. So I don't know, it's very different for everybody. I guess one last thing when we talk about the schooling, and this is clearly a very like surface level video on all of this, that's why I always say try doing some research on your own because there's a lot of information out there. But another thing that I thought was important to put into this video is the difference between different social work programs and their focus. For example, when I was applying, I knew that Columbia University School of Social Work focused mostly on macro social work, and this is a part that I said I would lead up to before, but macro social work is more policy-based social work, focusing on larger scale social work problems, program development, community-based social work, more on advocacy. On the other hand, NYU focused more on clinical micro work, which is more that direct interaction with an individual or with family members. So whether it's clinical social work, medical social work, school social work, I was more interested in working directly with people. When it comes to licensing, I suggest go to the ASWB website. That's also linked down below. All of the information is there, and how to register, and even the way to register. There's a link there where you can register, you can call them. Once again, depending on the job position, depending on the state that you live in, depending on the country that you live in, it really depends on if you need a license in social work. There's people who do social work jobs with just a master of social work after they graduate from a master's program. There's people who do social work jobs with just a bachelor in social work. However, there's a lot of jobs, especially clinical jobs, that would request that you're a licensed master social worker. The first thing you have to do is apply to take the exam. And depending on the state that you live in, count how many times I say that in this video. There's different rules on when or how you can apply to take the exam. For example, from my personal experience, when you went to take the New York State license exam, you have to have graduated from a social work master's degree program. So in order to take the exam, you have to finish school first. However, in New Jersey, the rule was a little different, where you could apply to take the exam as soon as you were enrolled in your last semester of social work classes. So this is the route I took, because although I wanted a license in New York State, I wanted to take the exam before I graduated. That way when I graduated, I don't have to think about taking a licensing exam. I would have just been done and can apply to jobs right away. So what I did, I signed up and took the exam in New Jersey, which is right here, you know, like literally across the river. And then I paid a $75 score transfer fee to transfer my exam scores to New York State. For the amount of stress and anxiety that it saved by being able to just take it before I graduated, I think it was well worth the money. So after you've signed up for the exam, you paid for the exam, you got to study for the exam. I use the general ASWB study workbook. I'll link it down below. Here's what mine looked like right here. Some people, they paid for individual classes, you know, that some graduates were offering, like paid out of pocket for courses and things like that. Other people, they just took the exam without any studying. So it really is dependent on what kind of person you are, how much you feel like you have a grasp of the material. But if anything, the licensing exam kind of reminded me of the SATs, where there is a lot of information in it that you do learn from classes, but some of the information in it is just catered just towards this specific test, so you need to understand how to take the test. It really depends on the individual, I guess. I studied for 3 to 5 months. I gave myself chapters to finish every week, and I just kind of read over it. I, underlined and took notes on concepts that I kept forgetting. It makes me feel more at ease studying more than less, being more ready for an exam than less ready. So that's what I did. So the LMSW social work licensing exam is a national standardized test, just like the SAT, like I said, which means if you take it in one state, it's the same exam in a different state. So generally it is a computerized exam where you sit down in these really old, like vintage computers, and you answer the questions, whatever, and at the end of the testing period, you get your score right away, whether you passed or you failed. So that was extremely nerve-wracking. So you get your score and then it gets sent to the board, and then if you check on the Board of Education website of whatever state you're in, before you know it, your name will come up and it'll show that you are registered and licensed as a social worker, and now you are officially a licensed social worker. And now there's also the LCSW, the clinical license. That I will not go into in this video because this video is long enough as it is, but that's pretty much a license that you can study for 3 years after you get the LMSW, but that's all I'm saying. That I will make in a future video, I promise. The LMSW versus LCSW, and if you even need it or not. You could be a social worker after a Bachelor of Social Work. You can be a social worker after just getting your master's in social work, and you can also be a social worker after getting a license in social work. Since there is such a need for social workers in this field, you could find yourself operating as a social worker even in different stages of this process. In my opinion, being a licensed social worker gives you more leverage and protection as an employee, whether it comes to your benefits or your pay. And also, I think it opens a lot more doors of opportunities of different kinds of jobs you can do. So yeah, that's it for this week's video on how to become a social worker. I hope all this information was helpful to you in some way. I know it was a lot, but hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments down below. This was so long, my camera shut off. Please like this video if you did like it. I make videos every Monday based on mental health, sometimes social work, and on Fridays I occasionally will post something, not sure what. But yeah, check out my channel to see what I do post, and if you like what you see, please make sure to subscribe. And yeah, happy Social Workers Appreciation Month if you're a fellow social worker out there. If you're not, then I appreciate you. I don't know. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.